Okay, welcome everybody to the January edition, January 2025 edition of the Multimodal Accessibility Advisory Council. Um, yeah, we have we generally start with introductions, but we have just our council members here today. We all know each other. So yeah, so what I was hoping, we have no we don't have any guests for today. But what I thought we could do today is kind of do we do have a guest. Um, so maybe we just do, we've got Ashton, but Ashton is also a pretty common guest. So I think we could probably just um, continue on. But yeah, what I thought we could do today is kind of do um, kind of a big picture brainstorming on what we'd like to accomplish this year, um, uh, with with our time. We had So just as a kind of reminder of what we've done in the past, we've had friends from DDOT come and present various topics. We've talked. There are a couple a couple of focuses that we've had. We wrote a letter on daylighting, and we've sent that. We haven't got a response, but we will bring that up during the. Let me actually back up. We've got a performance oversight hearing in February that I'll send. And for folks, Naomi and Liz, you may not be aware, but basically every year the council wants to hear from us about kind of what we've done and what we want to say to them. We've got a document that I just received from them, just with questions. So I'll send that out. What I'll do is, and so basically, what we generally do is we provide written testimony, and then we also provide oral testimony as well. I'll send that document out. And I'll start filling it in, and it'll just basically be an editable document. So if you guys would so please feel free to jump into the document and fill in. One of the big questions is how, I forget the phrasing exactly, but how do you see the state of transportation for people with disabilities in Washington, D.C.? So this is a real opportunity for us to speak directly to this city council on kind of our biggest priorities going forward. So so I'll send that document out. But yeah, coming back to where we were before, about kind of what we had focused on in the past. So daylighting, and then also our principles for street space usage. The daylighting letter is great. It's gotten to the Pedestrian Advisory Council and also the Bicycle Advisory Council, where they've been discussing that. It's also made its way to the DC Families for Safe Streets. So this is kind of in the world, making its way, talking, kind of starting conversations. I think it's worth. We haven't gotten a response from DDOT yet, so I think it's worth starting to send hard copy letters to everyone. Um, and then also the street space usage principles as well, is something that I think we can and should start using to start bringing up to individual capital projects or individual projects, because kind of now that we've got a good framework, I think we can start engaging. And I think that's one thing that I think it would be great to talk through today as well. The last thing that I'll bring up before we kind of just open up generally the conversation, is that we had also started talking about the idea of enforcement. So kind of there's we talked about infrastructure, with, in street design, with um, uh, street design. But then there's also how people use that street design, or basically the current and future street design, or better, or maybe kind of better said as people not using the street design properly. So people speeding, um, or parking in sidewalks or crosswalks, or accessible ramps being blocked, or during construction when sidewalks are blocked. There are kind of a bunch of different things um, that are not related to street design, um, that uh, that impair or kind of make it harder for people with disabilities to get around, and um, and kind of what we think, or what we think our city resources should be focused on to make sure that we can get around, safely and affordably and reliably, all of the good things. So whether those are police resources or towing resources, um, or um, inspection resources, basically the enforcement piece. And that's something that we had started discussing a little bit, but we said that we would kind of kick the can down the road. So I wanted to bring that up as something that we can also kind of have a larger, more robust discussion about this year. So so this is kind of like big picture, what I wanted to throw out there. But yeah, now I wanted to just kind of generally open up the floor to get a sense of what people are thinking about, and what's on people's minds, and um, what you'd like to focus on for 2025.
So I think Naomi was saying that she's not feeling well and having some trouble speaking today. So if you I don't mind, Naomi, if you don't mind, I will bring up the letter that we sent to the Department for Hired Vehicles,
Yep.
and following up on that. Have we heard anything back? Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think that would be good. And I see what so Naomi's writing in the chat that she's typing because she's not feeling well, and she's asking about better ways to advocate for, or ways to advocate for better snow clearing, because the snow is piled up on curb cuts near me, and I am also snowed in due to curb cuts. I'm
Hmm.
hoping to escape tomorrow, but I'm actually feeling very anxious about being able to leave my block.
Yep.
And Lizzie just said that too, so that would be
Yeah.
that's a really, thank you guys for bringing that up.
Yeah, I
Um,
ventured out today and I ended up having to push down the middle of the road
oh
to
wow,
navigate a
okay,
sidewalk
Dang.
right
yeah,
outside government headquarters, 1 block away from the White House.
of
So,
course,
yeah.
Right.
of course,
Right. Of course. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
Naomi, I'm there too, and yeah, so maybe I should just cancel. I'm supposed to have an appointment tomorrow. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous 3 days later that the ramps in particular are all snowed in. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So this is actually, I mean, I think this speaks to a larger point again, where it's there's kind of one set of service level, um, or one set of service levels for kind of general roads, and another set of service levels for sidewalks, which are kind of thought of as an afterthought, and the ramps connecting roads to sidewalks, and that's yeah. Um, yeah, totally. I'm in Singapore right now,
Speaking
so I'm not.
from
Go ahead.
Oh, so I was just going to say, and I'll pass it to you, Lizzie, but speaking from experience, what I've encountered in my years in DC is that there will be like, homeowners or building owners who will shovel the ramps. and it'll be nice and beautiful, and then the plow comes and snows it back in. So
Mhm.
it's like you can't win. So Lizzie had her
Yeah,
hand raised.
go for it, Lindsay.
Yeah, I just snow, I feel it's sort of like a symptom of a larger disease, in that I've actually been thinking a bit about transportation and transportation options as sort of a core pillar of also emergency response and evacuation and all of these other
Uh-huh,
more
uh-huh.
critical services. And
Yep.
right, the Kelly, just to kind of echo and underscore like the anxiety I have felt of leaving the building, and I did so today. And, of course, it went poorly, and just started to really think about, wow, if I really needed to get somewhere right now, my
Yep.
options would be so limited. And we know that when it rains, it snows. And I use that sort of tongue in cheek right now. But the problem is when stuff starts to go downhill, it can domino. And the people who are at most risk are individuals with disabilities, and we know that. And I just wonder if there's an opportunity to I think, of course, like, how do you eat an elephant? Bite by bite. And I think that snow management's an easy one. But really, like, the larger concern for me is safe passage and navigation and transportation during inclement weather, during times of emergency, during really
Mhm.
risky scenarios. And I just wonder if that's a lens that we can think about a little bit more in 2025.
Yeah, I
I
love that.
like that. I
I love
like
that.
that.
I love that. So I think so maybe so there's kind of one, yeah, two pieces here. So there's this one um short term piece on snow clearance, but then a longer term piece on kind of emergency uh uh yeah, just thinking about people with disabilities um, getting around during times of heightened risk. And that for just basically just echoing exactly what you just said, Lizzie, but maybe the first piece, so DPW, Department of Public Works, is responsible for snow clearance. I wonder if one short-term action item is to write a letter to DPW describing our experience, our collective experience, and potentially proposing uh, a similar standard for sidewalks and ramps as for roads. Um, just like yeah, I think that. What do folks think about that?
Yeah, I think that would be good. One of my frustrations over the years is that I've always heard DPW say, well, it's not our responsibility. And you can go to some volunteer group, I think Serve DC, right? But that's actually not a realistic solution. Like from all of us here, we're all saying that, that is not a realistic solution. So we really need to figure something else out. I mean,
Y- Yeah, I mean, I think this is where, like, I think getting the conversation going of,
yeah.
like, if DPW doesn't see this as part of their, like, they're they respond based on kind of what, or for us by us government, and you know we set the parameters of, that's public space, public sidewalks or public space, and it's the Department of Public Works. So theoretically, we the citizens can set the parameters of what they do. They're prioritizing right now snow clearance on roads, and they could have also that same priority on snow clearance on sidewalks as well. Um, if we kind of get the conversation go at some point, that priority was set. That priority can change. My guess is very slowly, but we need to get the conversation started.
Thanks, Zach, for letting us know DPW is responsible for enforcement. So maybe one of our questions in the letter could be, how much enforcement did you do this week?
Yes.
Like, how do you do enforcement? How does that go? Like, think that would be really helpful. And if say, my block, I can't get off my block, which my husband went out and looked for me today and he said, no, you can't get off the block. So, who do I call? And Naomi said she just put in a 311 serve DC request. And I'm wondering how fast are they going to respond?
Yeah, I honestly, I think this is total. I'm not gonna. I'll use malarkey, in the sense that, like, we, in no other critical. If we required, if just for the normal person, like, walking or driving around, if they were reliant on individual homeowners to make way, like, that would be totally unacceptable.
Yeah.
And that's essentially the scenario that we're in right now. And they're saying, oh, just like wait for someone, like wait for a homeowner to clear, or wait for some volunteer group to venture out and clear. It's just like, that is not, no. Like, I think, we have the ability to to do this, like, and also 311. This is kind of this anecdote that I think one of the council members talks about, that I heard. 311 trash pickup during, um, uh, one storm. You had tons and tons of missed trash pickup 311 requests, from Ward 2 and Ward 6, but literally zero from Ward 8. And it's like, it's not like trash pickup wasn't needed in Ward 8. It's just that people didn't, like, people were not aware of how to use 311, and requiring citizens to put in 311 requests for basic government functions is, like, a totally, like, not the right solution. This should be a proactive government response. But yeah, I mean, at 311, yeah, I mean, I think that, we definitely should be submitting 311 requests in order to, you know, uh, to to make the problem known. But I think, as a long-term solution, that is, like, kind of a crazy, like, it's crazy that that's, like, what, you know that that burden is on citizens to demonstrate, hey, there's, like, a problem that actually, like, if you thought for 3 seconds about, you'd know.
Mhm.
You don't, yeah. So, um, what do folks think about? Oh, so I'm just reading through. So, Naomi, they fixed sidewalk near me this fall, and I was surprised. My friend who lives near me both submitted requests. Maybe you can have Josh and others submit too. Um,
Lizzie, maybe one of our priorities should be looking into the 311 sidewalk accessibility repair.
yeah.
And that actually leads me to another sorry, I'm jumping around, another thought in that I think it was yesterday the new Olmsted plan for DC came out,
Mm,
and there
uh-huh.
was an entire section about transportation and sidewalk access in there.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty good. And are there things that we could help support on? And maybe this is a question for Zach, but it ties into what Lizzie was saying about there was a lot in there about sidewalk repair. Are there things that, we can help advise on or keep track of or etc. Anyway, there were a number of good items in there.
Yeah, so Peter is a friend of, so Peter's now at ODC. I've known him from his previous role at Disability Rights DC. Uh, he is a friend. He's a friend of
Great.
the councils too. So, and he took the lead on the Olmsted Plan rewrite. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he would be kind of a great ally,
Yes.
in this.
It was a good report, I thought.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I wonder actually if we. Yeah, that maybe that's a kind of a good intermediate step too, is like once we have kind of um, once we have a letter in hand, I wonder if we take it to Peter, um, and combined with the Olmsted plan, maybe we can use that, uh, we can use that as leverage, to say, hey, okay, this conforms with the Olmsted plan and what the Olmsted plan is calling for. What do we do? Like, how do we operationalize this?
Yeah, yeah. I like that. And Ashton, I like your comment too. Like, if Sweden hasn't figured it out, like, hopefully they have, and we could learn from them. The snow clearance.
Yeah, they took a gendered approach to it, and the idea was that women and people who identify as women tend to take more complex strips, um, and that they, people who identify as men tend to be the ones that travel on the highways most often, and so they totally reversed their priority plan, and they saw some really great cost savings and reduced injuries piece. And so, for whatever it's worth, I wanted to mention that. Thanks, Kelly. And sorry to drop some chat GPT outputs on you all. I don't know how folks feel about that tool, but I've read the book and I can attest to its accuracy and reliability in this case.
Oh, that's really great.
Nice. How do folks feel about kind of the next step on snow clearance? Be writing a letter to DPW, basically proposing a standard, maybe looking at the Olmsted plan and referencing the Olmsted plan, maybe looking at other countries and just other places that we think do it well, or kind of at least do it better than we do here, just so that we can kind of plant a flag in the sand and say, hey, this is what we think we need to be doing. Yeah, how do folks feel about that?
Do we have any insights as to what helped get DPW to beef, or for the vegetarian friends in the house, tofu up their towing or their booting and towing teams? Because I remember there was a contracted fight with Mary Che to kind of ramp up those efforts, and there were initially some roadblocks, but it seems like they were able to get more resources kind of shuttled to that part of DPW. Is it a resource constraint thing, and is that something that should be an ask during the oversight or budget hearing process? I know, snow removal is the winter thing, and then leaf, removal, I know, and for folks who advocate for bike lanes is, an autumnal thing, and you all are raising some really important concerns about sidewalk repair and requests. Do we know if this is like a budget ask, or they have the resources, they're just not prioritizing them well, or what the key constraint is on the DPW side, or is it like passing the buck, kind of like, this is because I know there's also been some confusion within the departments about whose responsibility it is for different things, whether it's maintenance or clearing, or I feel like there have been some questions on council hearings about who is ultimately responsible for different pieces of the maintenance process. Anyways, just wondering if there are any lessons learned and or insights from the booting and towing kind of surge that we can learn from or lean on as you look at making asks during the hearing season.
Yeah, there's one. There's so this wasn't just from this letter, but we, the MAAC, wrote a letter 2 years ago. I think this is when I just maybe a year and a half ago, but we wrote a letter this is when we were focusing on enforcement back then, is for there had just been a horrific crash, killing 4 people, by someone who was driving a car with $18,000 of unpaid or of fines and fees. And this kind of really catalyzed a larger discussion on why aren't we targeting people with lots of safety violations on their car. And yeah, so we wrote a joint letter with the PAC and the BAC, and I'll find that letter and put it in the chat. But this letter we sent to council. They scheduled a hearing, and there were also people from around DC kind of starting to talk about this. Is like this kind of catalyzed a conversation. This crash catalyzed a conversation on this, and there was a roundtable on how we use DPW's limited resources to prioritize the worst offenders, to get them off the streets. There's then that resulted in the council starting to bring up during DPW's performance oversight hearings, why they're not doing this. That took longer than it needed to take, but eventually they started to increase the number of boot and tow crews, and now they're finally, years later, starting to prioritize and starting to it's still nowhere near where we need it to be, but it has gotten better. So it's kind of one of those stories where it's like we've the government, the wheels of government are slow to turn, but like they've started to turn on this one, which is kind of neat. And I think we had a small part in getting that conversation going, which was pretty neat. So yeah, I mean, I think this is another conversation. We started a conversation on daylighting, which is quite cool. That's like that is like moving. And I think it would be fantastic to start a conversation like this on snow clearance, and leaf clearance as well. Just like kind of generally, like these things that that the everyday public thinks as a nuisance, but for people with disabilities are really like they will force a cancellation of appointments and force a cancellation of make it impossible to get to work, and just have much larger effect. So I think the next step is writing a letter. What do folks, Naomi and Lizzie, what do you guys think about that?
I would actually like us to do a little bit more fact finding. I'm going to go into the weeds for a second, but here's sort of my experience with sidewalks and navigating in snow in a wheelchair is that and Kelly, you already sort of went here. The business can do an absolute amazing job at clearing the sidewalk, but they get to the curb cut and they don't see that curb cut as their responsibility. And the city's approach to snow removal is the plow, and the plow is going to brutalize the curb cut and that transition from sidewalk onto crosswalk and back. And so I just get the sense that we've got multiple parties here going, that's not my baby. And I would almost prefer we hear the perspective of those parties first before we craft our letter, just because I think it gets us one step forward in being rather than just stating this is a problem, it needs a solution, actually being able to put forward potential solutions or ideas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I mean, maybe we think about this as like, okay, this is like we've identified a problem, we've identified a work stream that we'd like to focus on. Step 2 is now thinking about what solutions could be, but step 2A before we do that is just kind of doing fact finding, exactly what you said, Lizzie.
If there's a small business organization or Office of Small Business or something like that that we could invite to the meeting to give their perspective and sort of what are the challenges for businesses based on kind of the expectations of them, and then to hear also from the city on sort of what they perceive the challenges to be, what they perceive their responsibility to be, and where the boundary of their responsibility stops. We could maybe do that in one meeting. It might be interesting to have folks to stay on to hear the perspective of the other parties too.
I'm wondering if there's a perspective of homeowners as well. I don't know, because my building is really in a, I guess not so many businesses here. It's more homes, so it's really like, or maybe a multifamily building. If there's a multifamily building association, I don't know.
Yeah, great point. I think trying to just figure out who those sort of stakeholders are.
Yeah, totally. So,
I like it.
Lizzie, any chance you'd be interested in taking the lead on this?
Potentially. I've got we're in transition right now. So I admit I don't have a lot of bandwidth. So I would fear I could be a bottleneck.
Yeah. So maybe, why don't we so kind of one easy next step is to invite DPW to our next meeting. And then we can go from there.
Could we ask DPW to identify the stakeholder groups here?
Yeah.
And if they have points of contact, to ask them to provide those points of contact so that we can convene them. I mean, I have to imagine this is an issue that they're hearing from their stakeholders on frequently. So why don't we just tap into that?
Yeah. Maybe what we can do is maybe we can just do this now. I just want to make sure that we're capturing this correctly. We can ask, we can send an email to DPW's. What I'm going to do is just share my screen. And we can compose quick email.
While you're pulling that up, I posted in the chat, but wanted to flag it. I'm wondering too if it's possible to do a kind of a two-step approach. It seems like you all are calling attention to acute needs as well as more systemic issues that create those needs in the first place. And I don't know how much more snow DC is going to get, but I'm wondering if there's a way to prime, I hate this phrase, but prime the pump, or like get some more immediate action or relief in the short term, and also lay the groundwork for some longer term kind of strategic thinking to ameliorate the issues moving forward. Because I know DC, that I think it was Naomi who said, it's their first snow in DC since moving here I think 2.5 years ago. So welcome to how terrible DC is with snow removal in particular. I've lived in a lot of snowy places, but because DC doesn't get a lot of snow, it's particularly ill-equipped to deal with it when it does happen. But I think there might be some runway that you all have now, given that there actually is snow, and wondering and don't want to let that opportunity to really draw attention to the issue kind of pass as the snow melts, and it kind of, and knowing that there is as Leslie mentioned, a little bit of a transition coming up. So just throwing that up for consideration in case it's helpful.
Thanks, Ashton. I'm wondering, what do they do in Canada?
It's funny, I just asked ChatGPT where other places, like what other places have done, and the first example that they came up with was Montreal, Canada, and I guess they have specialized snow plows.
Ah,
Because you can use kind of a blunt force approach with streets that makes it really easy, but of course you all are bringing up both the like stakeholder approach, which is challenging. Like when you have a city, you could just ram city or state owned plows through a street, and so you just have one entity that's responsible, and you also have that type of equipment that makes it easier. But I think what's challenging about this is both the equipment side of things and the stakeholder side of things. And so if you have a piecemeal approach where every individual, who is next to a sidewalk is responsible for clearing that 20 feet, it's both that and the fact that sidewalks are just, you can't use a blunt force approach like a giant snow plow. And so I'm wondering if, and this is kind of what I was getting at with the question on booting and towing a little bit, but like, are there specialized equipment that DC could procure? Granted, you could have challenges with scaling it for the density of sidewalks in the city, but maybe if they did, you could ameliorate this issue, at least in particular areas, or roll out the mini snow plows in a more concentrated way.
I think we lost Karthik.
He's on mute.
Oh, he's on mute.
Sorry about that. I was just talking away.
Okay.
I just dropped a document in the chat. If folks can hop in there with me, we can kind of come up with a kind of an action plan of sorts. Just kind of capturing some of the discussion. We've got an ally with Peter, Stefan. What do other cities do? Specialized equipment. Enforcement. Other stakeholder groups like business groups. We've got DPW. One more time. I'm not. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, sorry about that. I lost sharing the screen. There we go. There we go. Hopefully that worked. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've got DPW as the obvious government agency. We've got our ally with Peter Stefan. What other cities do? We've got enforcement. I guess we can pull this up with DPW, who also does enforcement. Larger issue. Great. Fantastic. Perfect.
I'll put this in the document, but I'm also wondering if this would be an interesting issue for business improvement districts to take up. I know that, for instance, the Southwest Business Improvement District does a pretty good job of looking at ways that they can get out into the community and help in ways that are not just focused. We're also kind of an interesting case in Southwest, but and I know that bids aren't kind of completely across the city, but especially in denser areas, they might be a really helpful stakeholder, because they have specific staff that are cleaning the streets and beautifying neighborhoods and areas. But I'll throw that in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yeah, this is a great start. Yeah, I love this. Um, I'm wondering, it would be great to have, I think that, yeah, this is a very cool, work stream, and we are a little short staffed too because we still have two seats that would love to get filled. But yeah, I would love for this to be kind of because we're going to have things like this that I'd love to have, like, different work streams going on, or maybe even kind of mini committees, where we could push, because this is, like, we yeah, there's like a lot of cool things that I think we can and should do around this, where um, we've got some fact finding, we've got um, some letter crafting, and then also some kind of ally and coalition building that we can do. There's just kind of a lot of cool things that we can do, and I have a feeling that that we'll have kind of other things like this uh, that we can also kind of rally around. So I'd love to have the model be kind of different folks kind of stepping out and taking the lead. Um, and so, Olivia, here that you're a little strapped. Any chance, Naomi or Kelly, you'd be interested in jumping in and taking the lead on this?
Hey, Kartik, is there a status update on hiring the staff position to support this? I just
So
feel like we're going to be hindered by that, and that a lot of this work could be driven by that
yeah,
position.
so we haven't identified any candidates so far. I have talked to Larry, so they're ready. Like, as soon as we identify someone, it's actually pretty straightforward to get someone hired. Haven't identified anyone. I've reached out to a couple folks. Unfortunately, um, they're not able to jump in. But yeah, if there are um, yeah, if you know of other folks, just that $30 an
So
hour.
it's
Go ahead.
not like open, and it's not open to the public. You have to have a candidate identified pre-hoc.
Oh, it is open to the public. So basically, anyone can, like, if you have someone
Well, I think
that
that's what
would
I'm asking. Like, is it visible to the public? Like, if someone's searching for
uh
jobs through the
got it.
city, are they going to find it, or are we going to have to identify the person through other routes and then have them?
So unfortunately, we're only kind of semi-governmental, and we can't actually, like, use the channels of DC government to post anything. So this is where kind of we're not, yeah. Um, so this is basically where it's just like we need to kind of find people on our own.
There at least like a link or I don't know, like a type form or something that we can send around to folks as a way to capture information?
Yeah, uh, we do have a JD, but we can also make a type form application. Um, I guess, but let me find the JD and put that in the chat.
Would this be something that would be good to advertise to some of the universities in town?
Totally,
Okay.
totally.
I don't know if they have job boards.
I have a crop of a dozen or so undergrads over in, well, they're in Fairfax, but I'll ask if any of my students are interested.
Yeah, and I've got students that are coming back this time, so this is actually a good reminder to ping them as well. But let me just so that everybody has it, I will put the put that in the chat. But I think beyond beyond the the admin assistant, I think it would be good to have kind of different folks, because there's also, once we have an admin assistant, we also want that, like, to be able to give that admin assistant direction. So I think it would be cool to have, and good, let me just find this. Yes, position administrative assistant. Here we go. Put that in the chat. Different folks kind of just take the lead on, because even when we get the admin assistant, we definitely still want to be able to give that person direction. That is the admin. So I think this will have the same. I think it would be great to have kind of different folks step up to kind of you know, on the council, just lead out on different things. So maybe, hopefully we get admin support soon. But anyone else? So Kelly or Naomi, any interest in kind of leading this work stream?
Yeah, I could at least try to help us get to that February meeting.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
So I guess do you have a contact at DPW, Karthik, that we should start with?
I don't have I don't have a direct contact at DPW, but I think we can just email the director.
Okay.
So
I was good.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I
ahead,
I can reach out to see who would be the most appropriate from DPW.
That'd be great, Zach.
Yeah.
And if they have other suggestions on other stakeholders, that would be great.
Okay.
And if not, then I can do some nosing around some local groups.
Cool. Yeah, this is great, and I think we can start small and just, like, see see who we can get for February, and yeah, and then kind of start the conversation. Yeah, and hopefully we will. I'll advertise. I'll advertise this position. The semester starts next week, so I'll advertise the position in my world, and then Ashton said that she would do the same if you guys can do the same as well. And yeah, hopefully, I know once we've identified someone, it can be pretty quick. We can get them on, and they can help. They can help start kind of doing some legwork.
Really quick, Lizzie and Naomi, if you do go out, can you take some pictures and note where these obstacles are? Because I'm wondering if we kind of compile some evidence, and I'll do the same during my attempt tomorrow. And just make a note of the day and how many days it's been since the snow.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I can take some photos.
Nice. Cool. Okay. So I think we've got a good plan on this front, and I think this is a pretty neat, important work stream that we can, hopefully start a conversation around. Hopefully start a conversation around and start, getting this ball rolling. It will, be this is kind of one thing that I remember someone told me when I first got here and started becoming active. Is just like, nothing nothing works initially, and you'll get frustrated, and and you'll and it seems like nothing will change, but then you know and then randomly, like, you'll realize that something that you did like 5 years ago like has actually made some difference. So, so, so
Way to keep
if you
hope alive.
exactly, you plant enough seeds, and then eventually you'll see some tree that you forgot about. It's like, or if you just like just keep the hope, and keep watering those seeds, and one day they'll come to fruition. So yeah, so I believe this is a really important seed that we can plant and get the conversation going, and at least plant the flag. So yeah, and with that boot and toast thing, that's like, this is kind of an important thing, and daylighting, and hopefully also with Department for Hire Vehicles. They do have I know. So I also copied Heidi Case on that letter, just to kind of run back to that letter, Naomi, um, that you led. Um, I'm going to ping Heidi again. They have a similar council, Department of For Hire Vehicles. I think it's called the AAC, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've been to a few of the meetings, and um, I guess I didn't see any of those seeds starting, so I kind of haven't been going for a while. But
Yeah,
they have folks on there who are enthusiastic. So if we want to follow up with them, we could do that.
totally. What I'm gonna do is just call Heidi directly. She's great. Heidi used to be the chair of the MAAC, and she's fantastic. So I think this is everything in writing. Like, it's just like one thing that I've learned. That's why I'm kind of pushed for letters. Is like, it just gives us something to point to, and it gives other people something to rally around. So this is something that, like, now that Heidi has this, she can take this letter and say, hey, like, we're not the only people who are very frustrated with this. Like, we have this other group that's also kind of planted a flag, and she can take that and bring it to Department of For Hire Vehicles. That's actually another thing too, is that we can invite them. That's another work stream. Actually, we can invite them for a future meeting, to just follow up on that letter. I wonder, and I think I copied everybody on that letter. Is that right?
I think I got it. So I think so.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Uh, Naomi, any interest in following up with Department of For Hire Vehicles and just inviting them to a future meeting, and or kind of anything else on that, that front that we want to press on? I know you can't talk right now, but let me just get back into Google Meet and see. Yeah, so Heidi, I think, would be so Heidi's um, they have a council, like a separate council like us, but not actually Department of For Hire Vehicles. Um, so basically, just uh, I can loop in Heidi. Um,
Maybe that's the thing to do. See what Heidi says first.
yeah, that's a good idea.
And
Cool.
I'll just say I have been frustrated with DFHV. So
Yeah, I'll ping. I think that's a good next step. I'll ping Heidi first, and then see where we go from there. But I think getting, yeah, if we wanted to follow, I think that would be a good next step beyond just to, get ask them to come here and kind of respond to the letter, I think would be good. Yeah, I think so that would be, yeah, I'm just kind of compiling a list of future getting a list of future guests at our meeting, I think will be good, just so that we can get the uh you know getting invites out, so that if people can't come in February, we give them the opportunity to come for March and April, etc. So but yeah, so let's before we invite the DFHV, let's I'll ping Heidi first, and then I'll also copy everyone on that. I think it would be great to also follow up on um, our daylighting letter with DDOT. So I think it would be great to invite the director as well to a future meeting. I know it takes a couple months to schedule that. Who else? Just to get the kind of ball rolling on invites. Are there other people that we'd like to and maybe kind of in anticipation of what we'd like to focus on, other people or other entities that we think we'd like? So far we've got DPW, Department of For-Hire Vehicles, and DDOT. Any other entities or sub entities that folks would be interested in
What
hearing
about
from?
Peter to talk about
Oh,
Olmsted
100%.
just in
100%. Yeah.
general?
Yep.
And then following that, I don't know, Zach, if there are certain departments that were involved with that, maybe invite them to the same meeting or a second meeting to see how we can support.
I think Peter would be a good start because we work closely with him on that. Yeah, I think that would be good.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I wonder, yeah, I feel like Peter is going to be a good ally, both in the context of stone removal in in our conversation with uh, with DPW, but then also I think more generally, I think he'll be an ally on basically everything that we do. So yeah, I think yeah, maybe we invite him also to our DPW meeting, and then yeah, I remember he at some point is ODR also sends someone sometimes to the meeting, um, uh, and I remember he was when I was first talking to him, like he was potentially possibly going to either supplement or be that permanent person. So so I think yeah, this is just an invite. I can invite him to the next meeting too. Um, cool. Lizzie, I see uh, uh, your note that you need to sign off. I think we've got basically the next few months, I think. But yeah, kind of larger conversation, I think, defining our kind of other things that we'd like to work on, I think would be great. We also have this kind of big enforcement piece hanging out there that I think it would be great to come back to as well. But I think then, I think, I wonder if we just I, maybe this is we also have a pretty small group too today, so maybe I'll just kind of wrap up then, or just hold for a second. Any kind of other big picture questions, and we can wrap up on big picture items that we want to follow up on. Anything else that folks want to bring up?
The only other thought I had, Karthik, was if we want to do some sort of check-in periodically, even with Metro, particularly on the bus situation,
Yeah,
because they are changing they're changing not
their
entire
entire network.
changing a lot next
Yep.
year. I think in June. And so just I don't know what our role could be, but just and I know they have a committee too, so an
Yeah,
advisory council. So maybe that's just like an annual touch base kind of thing.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I wonder. So, yeah, I think that it's called the Rider Advisory Council. I have not met anyone from there, but I am on their mailing list. And I think it would be good. Yes, absolutely. I think maybe I can. There are a couple people who are active on their mailing list, and I think that would be great to actually. Um, I can email them and basically invite them to say, "Hey, like come to a meeting where we talk about where we can meet each other, and then also kind of share our kind of collective concerns and see if there's something that we can do to work together." Yeah, I'd love that. Um, cool. Yeah, that sounds great. Um, so yeah, anything else? I think there's kind of a larger. My sense is that kind of people have to go um, slash. I think we've kind of run the course for this meeting, but I think what we'd uh, kind of a few things to follow up on. So one, we do have 2 open seats, so please forward the. I'll send a follow up email. Forward this on to forward those that linked on to for folks to apply, and once they're in the pipeline, I can start to push them through. 2, we've got that open position for the admin, so I'll send that. I'll start sending that out. But if y'all can do the same, that would be wonderful. Um, then I will ping Heidi on Department for Hire Vehicles. Also ping Peter and invite him to our next meeting. Hopefully, we'll have DPW at that meeting. Thanks, Kelly, for taking the lead on that, on inviting people on that front. If we can put and actually, Zach, if we can put a request in for the director in the next, whenever she's free next, in the next few months, that would be fantastic. And also ping the RAC, the Rider Advisory Council, for WMATA, for a future meeting, to meet and kind of talk about collective concerns on bus and rail. That'd be great.
I think we've got a busy year already planned.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of good stuff. So, and hopefully we'll kind of be supplemented with additional manpower, both in the form of the additional seats filled, and then we've got our man and woman power, both on the admin side and then also with our additional seats. So yeah, I think without yeah, if there anything else that folks want to bring up before we adjourn.
All set from
Are
me.
you having fun in Singapore?
Yeah, it's great. That's why I was like, snow is not on my mind at all. But it is very hot and humid here. So
Oh, okay. Okay. I feeling like I made a mistake in my life choices this winter.
Cool. All right. Well, take care, everyone. Happy New Year, and we will reconvene in February.
Happy New Year.
Take
Take
care
care,
out
everyone.
there.
See you, everybody.